Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or wherever you are tuning in right now. Welcome to the Persevering with PCOS live show. I am Yashi of the Mind of Yash, and this is actually episode 4, and it's on the very last day of PCOS Awareness Month, and it has been quite a month with a lot of activity, with a lot of eye opening information and a lot of collaboration. And it's been a really great month. And so I'm so excited tonight to have a very, very special guest who I connected with on Clubhouse. And I could just tell that she has an energy that I could vibe with, always seems to be very positive, and then, of course, sharing her wealth of knowledge to help the community and PCOS community as well. So she's always on the panel in the My Dynamic Uterus Clubhouse room on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. AST with Dr. Cindy Duke. And so I'm just going to give you a brief bio of my guest tonight, and we're going to get started. So if you're here already, please, say hi in the comments. Also, be sure to leave your questions for our guest tonight. Even if you're watching the replay, please post your questions, and I'm sure we will be able to answer. So, starting off, Dr. Sylvia Gonsahn-Bollie is a double board certified body positive weight and wellness physician expert, NASM certified group fitness instructor, holistic wellness coach, speaker, and best-selling author who has personally lost 60 pounds and kept it off for the past 7 years. Dr. Bollie is passionate about liberating women from dieting by discovering the real causes of your weight struggle, and so that you can transform to the best version of you for a lifetime through your unique, sustainable, personalized strategy. In addition to passionately serving women on their weight and wellness journey, Dr. Bollie regularly speaks on the flaws of the BMI, the need for personalized obesity evaluation, PCOS, self love, and overcoming weight bias. She is the best selling author of Embrace You, your guide to transforming weight loss misconceptions to lifelong wellness. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up Dr. Bollie, Dr. Sylvia, with us.
Good evening, Yashi. I'm so happy to be here and be with your group. Hi.
Good evening, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this. And I'm so excited to learn from you because I have just been, especially like this week when I heard you speaking with another advocate as well, and some of the information and advice you shared, I was extra excited for you to also share that with the community because I think it's things that we really need to be talking about.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I know, like you said, it's been a month, right? It's been awesome. PCOS Awareness Month, and I feel we all have been all over talking and sharing things with it. So I guess you're talking about I've done a couple, but most recently Shelby Eckhart
Yeah.
and we talked about like body love, like how self-love is in a size. How do you love yourself on your journey, not waiting until you get to that special weight or that special goal or till your PCOS is controlled, but loving yourself on the pathway. How do you do that? That's what you're referring to.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
definitely Shelby, the PCOS support girl. Yes, I really did enjoy that talk you had with her.
Oh, thank you.
So, just to start things off, Dr. Sylvia, I wanted the audience to kind of understand your own journey when it comes to weight management and how you became to be so passionate about the topic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I really think about it, like as I've been going through this whole year of helping other people, for me, it started with my grandma Sylvia. I'm named after my grandma Sylvia, and Grandma Sylvia was a beautiful, voluptuous, full-figured woman who was also a entrepreneur, an educator, and a baker. And so I grew up hearing wonderful stories about Grandma Sylvia. She lived in Liberia, West Africa, but I didn't meet her until I was 8 years old. And after the time she had spent 3 years in the Liberian Civil War with no medical care, and by the time she came to the States, she had diabetes, hypertension, and then eventually had a massive stroke, which all of which the doctors attributed to her weight. And so from a young age, I knew like weight can really make you sick. Weight can change your life, having extra weight. And honestly, I think at that stage I became a bit fat phobic. Like I was so scared of gaining weight. I look back at my journals from age 15 and I was counting calories. I was like, this is now as a mother thinking about if my 15-year-old child were to be counting calories, I'd be like, what are you doing? But then it was so natural because I was just afraid I didn't want to gain weight and get sick like Grandma Sylvia. But at the same time, I grew up in a culture where food was celebration. So if you were happy, you ate. If you were sad, you ate. You know, if you were mad, you were getting punishment, but you still got to eat. So everything was about food, right? And so once I got to, so I learned to use food to cope basically. And once I got to college, there being in the southern United States, I was introduced to something else, which was not pilau. Yes, I was introduced to that because I had a Trini, a good Trini friend. So she taught me how to make stewed chicken and pilau. And so it's still on my menu today. But no, I was also introduced to the southern tradition of dessert after every meal. So all that extra sugar and eating it, that it's very addictive. So that is what I used to kind of get through med school, college, everything like that. And it was fine until I met my weight gain trigger, my what triggered my grandma Sylvia genes, which was my first pregnancy. And the thing about it for women, we're very sensitive to hormones and any sort of hormonal shift, whether it be pregnancy, whether it be PCOS, whether it be menopause or perimenopause, those things can be triggers for excess fat storage for us. And so that was mine. And I gained 60 pounds with my pregnancy, and I kept 40 of it on for about 2 years when my baby was no longer a baby, when he was running around and he was a toddler, but I still had baby weight. I'm like, he's not a baby anymore. It's got to go. And so, but I didn't really know how because all I knew was calories in versus calories out. And on top of that, I had really never learned that it was more to weight than just calories. It was also energy. So, how was I managing my stress? As a new mom, new doctor, busy, new city, lots of life changes. I hadn't mastered any way of handling my stress other than eating and eating sugar and eating sweets and then not sleeping and then putting other people's priorities, other people's needs above my own. So it really, really, and I was really hard on myself when that first happened. I mean, I felt tired, I felt drained, I felt like a failure because I'm like, I'm the doctor. This is what I never wanted to happen. I never wanted to gain this weight. And really, for me, weight was not just about because I actually, I didn't maybe to other people look that big. People have told me that when they read my book, but I was so afraid of getting sick. I was afraid of getting the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the stroke, like my namesake, like my grandma. And so really, really what happened, what was my wake up call was a good friend told me I was like hard on myself because I couldn't diet anymore. So the trying to do the calories out, calories in was just stressing me out. And it was actually becoming like a cycle where, okay, I try to do this. It would just lead to more weight gain because my body was just like, you're tired. Stop forcing us to do these things that we don't want to do. And a good friend told me, be nice to Sylvia. I like her. And so that was like my wake up call to stop dieting and to stop trying to do what everybody else did and really, really find out what would I do for myself if I were being kind to myself because I really wasn't. I was talking to myself in a way I would never talk to a patient. I would never even probably talk to a stranger off the street and certainly not my child. And so I needed to change that language and really be kind with myself. And once I did that, I started to make small changes. So, changing my diet just a little, changing what I was eating slightly, but not in making major changes because I didn't even have the energy for that. Adding a little bit more movement here and there, and then gradually working myself up to running, which really helped relieve my stress. And all of those things combined within 2 years I was able to lose the weight, but I also learned something important from a medical perspective. I realized everything I had learned in med school about weight and weight gain was wrong and it wasn't enough. because I graduated 2010 from medical school, and obesity wasn't recognized as a disease until 2013. So that meant like I really hadn't learned the latest thing. So that's what got sparked my interest, both my personal experience and then seeing that there's so much more to this than what I learned. It's more than the BMI. It's more than telling people to count calories, to just exercise. Like we really have to go deeper. And so that's why I got boarded in obesity medicine, which has changed my life really and changed my practice. And I launched my own practice in virtual practice during the pandemic, actually in August of 2020, because I was like, I'm seeing so many people suffering complications of COVID from preventable illnesses that if we had given them the solution early on, they wouldn't be so sick at their baseline and then adding COVID to that. So that's what has gotten me really passionate about this field.
There's so much that resonates with me from what you're saying, and especially that last point is something that you said is not something that you were really trained in during medical school. It was after where you really changed the thinking and how you approach it. And what I like about how when you describe this is that it seems to come from a place of empathy, right? Because here in Trinidad and Tobago, yes, we do like pilau, and we are very big. Everything comes back down to food for us. But then there is the other side of things, that despite everybody knowing that we love food so much, the first thing people tend to say as we joke about it here as a greeting is like, "Hey, you put on some weight." Like not even like, "Hello, how are you doing? Hey, you look much. Yeah, you look a little, and it's not even, they don't even say it in a
Oh yeah,
way.
yeah.
And so when you're talking about it, it makes me go back to my own weight journey. It's been a roller coaster for me, and it was actually when I went to the doctor to figure out what was going on with me. It was actually because I was underweight. I very I was 109 pounds at the time, and I was menstruating maybe like 3 times a month. And that's when I went to the doctor, and they told me that I had PCOS. I don't remember exactly what happened at the point in time, but I remember they did put me on birth control pills and metformin, and it did help to regulate things. But then the things that you were talking about, like not knowing, like going to university, and not having a healthy regime because you're studying, and then you're eating terribly at night, and you're up all night, doing work, and then having this thing and not understanding and not really getting the information that I needed at the time, or even knowing like what information am I supposed to be getting, or what I'm supposed to be asking, and nobody around really understanding, but they're just seeing you and seeing you putting on weight. And at first it's kind of nice, you get you reach a point where it's like, okay, this is borderline. It's weighing on me. Well, weighing on me, but it also on the energy and these things, and then on my mental health, because I also did have I did emotionally eat at that point in time, not recognizing that what it was, but it is what it was. And then there were times when I would try, the like cutting out sugar and salt completely, and I would see results. But of course, like that is not something that I could have kept consistently, and then doing like shakes, meal replacements, and these things, and I would have results for a short time. But because I didn't have what you're saying, the self-love, I was always very hard on myself. Those things never really stuck with me. And honestly, Dr. Sylvia, only when I had my daughter in 2018 is kind of when the consistency started to happen, because I realized that I had some negative patterns that I learned, and I didn't want to teach her. And that kind of started the journey of me. It's like, okay, I need to be more consistent. I need to take care of myself, because I need to be that example for her. And it became a little easier. Not perfect. I have days that is not so great, but it's been the most consistent I've been since since ever. And I was diagnosed when I was 18, and I'm 34 now.
Oh wow. Wow. That is a beautiful journey. And I think just like you said, I can resonate with so much of what you said. But you said something, you caught yourself, but I think actually that is there was a lot of truth. You said it was weighing on me. And that's the thing, weight is not just physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional. Like there's so much in it. And that's the issue, is a lot of times we make it just a physical thing, right? Oh, it's about how I look, it's about what people are saying. But no, it's actually, what else are you carrying? And so what else are you carrying around? Is it stress that you haven't resolved? Is it grief that you haven't resolved? Is it trauma you haven't resolved? So many things that we as women, we carry around. Is it having a PCOS diagnosis and being told that you may not have children? Like, and then we turn to things that are socially acceptable initially, like food, to soothe ourselves, to emotionally eat. And it's okay until it gets to a point where we're no longer comfortable and it's no longer comforting us. And so I think that is so powerful that you said that. And I think as we embrace that, weight is so much more than a number on the scale, and that there's all these things behind it. That's how we can truly find like consistency. That's how we can find clarity and then consistency on our journey. And I love that, your daughter, having a daughter, was what she said, hey, I'm breaking this generational cycle of dysfunctional eating. Because many of us, how we learn to eat and the way our relationship with food, and it is a relationship, right? A lot of it is because of how we were taught or what we saw modeled. Oh, this event, the party's coming up, let me go ahead and not eat anything because I got to wear my dress. We're going on vacation, we're going to the beach, let me not eat too much or else my belly will stick out in my swimsuit. All these things. So to be able as women, as mothers, to recognize that and say, hey, I'm not going to model that for my children, is so important. And they pick it up all kind of things. My daughter was born 2018 too. When was your daughter born?
In
What month?
May.
May. Okay, mine is, my daughter's December of 20.
Oh,
Yeah,
baby.
exactly. And so I don't know where she got it from, but one day she's like, my butt's getting big. I said, ma'am, where did you get that from? But it came from a cartoon, a benign cartoon, but they're already in, and that's supposed to be, well, here we have the rating, so it's supposed to be for everyone. But the little cat was talking about his butt was getting big, and then she picked that up. So, I mean, I think it's so important that we as mothers, that we as women, and not even if you're not a mother yet, but you have other women around you, how do you talk to them? What do you say to them about their bodies? Because people, that weighs on you, that adds to the weight that you're carrying, and does have an impact on your energy and your emotional energy as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And something that you made me thought of, and I'm gonna ask you, because it's something that I want to start doing, is
Mm-hmm.
when I hear relatives or persons
Mm.
in the comments, even to my daughter, sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
like make sure she doesn't get, and knowing that I have PCOS, the PCOS
Mm-hmm.
journey, and knowing the struggles with that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you tell that to somebody in a gentle way, or straightforward, gentle but straightforward way,
Mm-hmm.
so that they stop saying those type of comments too?
Yeah, I resonate with this so much, again, because of my own journey, but also through helping women more closely and intimately in the Embrace You program. But yes, and it's interesting you mentioned culture. I just want to say this. I think it's all throughout the diaspora. Like, my family's Liberian, is where my parent and my husband's from. So as soon as I got married, everyone started saying to me, "You're getting fat. You're getting fat, girl." And so I was like, why is everyone telling me I'm fat? Because with my Western mindset, it's like, but it was meant as a compliment, like you're putting on weight, it looks good. And so I think, but as I was going through my own struggle with weight, there was someone very close to me whose opinion mattered very much, like in my immediate family. And she would always, I call her Weight Watchers, because like if I'm thin, she got something to say. If I'm up, she got something to say. So finally, on this part of my weight journey, I realized how every time that it was really affecting me. It was making me sad. It was making me uncomfortable. And this person is very close to me. And so finally, I just had to say, I do not like you talking about my weight. We can talk about other things, but please do not comment on my weight. And, she was taken aback and like, oh, but I'm just joking. I said, but I don't like those kind of jokes. Like those jokes are hurtful. I find them very hurtful. I do not like when you make comments about my body. And this is a person older than me, person close to me, like but I had to be very clear. And guess what? They stopped. It took maybe 2 or 3 reminders, but they
Mm.
stopped. It did take some reminding because I think they try to test you, like, are you really you serious about this? But I just said, and I really got to a place where I wasn't emotional about it, because even though it's a very emotional thing, but by the time I spoke to her, it was just very flat and calm. So you're not saying, oh, you're just angry, you're just mad. But no, I do not like when you make comments about my body. I find it hurtful. Um, and I just left it at that. I didn't explain I'm on a weight journey, I'm doing this. I just said that. And even recently it came up because as I was making my plate at a family gathering, they were like, oh, what do you do? So in your weight program, can you just eat anything you want? And it was like one of those like snide comments. So I'm
Yes.
like, again, I am reminding you, please do not comment on my food, on my body. I do not like when we have those type of conversations. And I think setting that boundary very clear is very helpful. I know it's very hard when we come from like foreign cultures, because a lot of times you're like, you have to respect your elders. You can't speak directly to them. And I think that's why making sure the emotion is almost out of it. Like, be as emotional. I'm not saying don't be emotional. Like,
Yeah.
be emotional in your journal, be emotional in your room, be emotional when you call your best friend and tell them about it. But when you're going to that older person, that person who's going to take offense just by you standing up for yourself, you need to make sure it's just very calm, very simple, and leave it at that. That's what has worked for me, and
Mm.
has really worked for my clients as well, because this is one of the things we talk about in our one-on-one coaching. Social settings, social environments, there's a lot of pressure. People feel the need to just talk about your body. They feel the need to talk about your plate and comment on your plate and like micromanage what you're eating. So how do you navigate that? What do you say? And I think
Yeah.
that's so important.
I think that's a good point to take the emotion out of it before.
Mm-hmm,
Like me,
mm-hmm.
like, I've been in those situations where the emotion just takes over and your point is just it's lost and you're not even
Mm-hmm.
able to say it clearly. So I think you're totally right about journaling about it before, or talking about it with somebody else before. That's a very good point for me, especially because I know that I need a moment to calm down.
Me too.
I'm gonna come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Sylvia, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions of weight when it comes to PCOS, because I
Mm-hmm.
know, like, later on when I had to change doctors,
Mm.
and but I still get the whole, try to lose weight and you'll be able to manage your symptoms. But even when I was diagnosed, I was not overweight,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know. So there are persons that are out there who has lean PCOS. So if you could just touch a little bit about weight and PCOS.
Absolutely. So I have a blog post about it. That's so you'll share the link, because I have a blog post where I talked about this, and this is one of the things we talked about at I did a presentation for that PCOS retreat earlier this month. But this is one of my soapbox issues, and this is actually what got me involved in the PCOS space. Is there's so many misconceptions when it comes to weight and PCOS. First of all, your weight did not cause your PCOS. In fact, it might be the opposite, where having the PCOS triggers weight gain. And you do not have to be overweight to have PCOS. Just like Yashi said, 20 to 40% of people do not have are not overweight that have PCOS. They have what we call lean PCOS. And when we say overweight, our standard for judging it just based on the studies is using the BMI, or the body mass index, which for people, normal weight is considered 18 to 24.9 kilograms over meter squared. Now, that being said, there's a lot of biases with the BMI, and we know that for Black women in particular, for younger women that are less than 30, also for older women as well. So you have to really adjust the BMI chart, and that's something else is on my website, is also in my book, because sometimes I'm saying it can misdiagnose people as being overweight and you're really not. And when it comes to PCOS in particular, why this matters is because sometimes people are mistakenly not diagnosed because people think it's only if you're overweight. So I feel like your practitioner, your doctor was very astute for being able to recognize it, because that's actually not the norm. Usually, most people think it has to do with weight. And I'm sure you talk about here, Yashi, the diagnosis, the diagnostic criteria is really three things that don't have anything to do with weight. Number one, just having absence of periods, or having irregular periods or unpredictable periods, so due to anovulation or oligoovulation. There's hyperandrogenism. So this is the Rotterdam criteria that I'm saying. Hyperandrogenism, so either clinical or from sign, or having laboratory abnormalities. So usually, if you're having the things like the acne, the coarse hair, facial hair growth, which we call hirsutism, all of those things are can be a sign. And then the third criteria is that you have cyst on your ovaries, and we all have cysts on our ovaries. But in polycystic ovarian syndrome, these cysts are either going to be large, so one large cyst that is more than 10 mLs, or you're going to have many cysts that are between 8 to 12 millimeters in size. And so that's going to be seen on a radiograph or on some or ultrasound, some sort of imaging. And so it's important to note that weight is not included in there. And so I think you asked two things, and I feel like this is a passionate issue, so I feel like I'm just pouring so
No,
much information. But to
go
get
ahead.
back to your original question, though, a lot of times weight loss is recommended, and I think it has a role, right? Because what happens in some is one of the potential consequences of PCOS is many things. Insulin resistance is one of the key factors. So insulin is what helps your body absorb sugar or put glucose into the muscles, into the liver, and help you use glucose. When you don't use the glucose, it gets stored as fat, and then that sends off a whole bunch of inflammation and other signals. But there's other things that PCOS does that impact your appetite as well through the hormones. So it causes ghrelin increase, which is a appetite stimulant. It makes you hungry. Think ghrelin hunger. Exactly. So all of these things are going to, so it works in many, many different ways. And I say that to say, sometimes when we just tell people, oh, with someone with PCOS, and we have not controlled the PCOS, and we say, just go lose weight, we're actually doing a disservice, because there's many factors that make it challenging to lose the weight if the PCOS is not controlled. So it has to be done hand in hand. It has to be done with an understanding of what is going on biochemically in the PCOS. It's not all willpower. You're not just saying, oh, I want to eat sugar, I crave sugar, da da da. You're literally craving sugar because even though you're taking in a lot of sugar in your mouth, your body is not actually using the sugar properly, because the insulin, which is needed to get the sugar into the cells, is not working as well with the PCOS. And you're hungry because then all the other hormones, the gonadotropin releasing hormone, other things like that, are then stimulating you to be more hungry. So I think that's why it's a pet peeve, honestly, when people just like lose weight and they don't give you the right tools to use to lose weight when you have PCOS. It's very challenging.
Yes, and as you speak, I'm just remembering the times where I just feel frustrated with myself because I would
Mm-hmm.
just finish eat a meal, and
Yes.
then a little while after, I would hear my tummy
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but I just ate food, and it's very frustrating, and it's very difficult to explain to somebody who has not been exposed to the information or who does not have
Mm-hmm.
PCOS as well. And you really do get frustrated with yourself, and you try your best not to create that cycle where it's like,
Mhm.
well, whether I eat a lot, whether I eat a little, whether I eat, it doesn't seem to make a difference, and then you find yourself going into that, or spiraling into something else that you should be
Yes.
in. So I know there are a lot of women who feel that way, but
Mhm.
I especially like how you in the beginning you were talking about like those slow changes,
Mhm.
small steps, and once you get that right, then you could probably add something more. So if you could share maybe some more tips that women with PCOS could probably employ to kind of help with the symptoms and the circumstance.
Absolutely. So the first thing I'm going to actually say, because I heard you say it, like explaining yourself.
Mm,
And don't get me wrong, I am a recovering people pleaser. I used to care a lot about what people think. Like, I've had to read books and pray and go to therapy, all of that for it. So when I say this, I'm not saying it lightly, but I think the first shift that has to happen mindset wise is not feel the need to explain yourself to people
mhm,
who don't matter. Decide who matters and who deserves your explanation, and the rest of them, boop boop. Like that's how that, because I'm serious. We waste so much energy trying to explain ourselves to people who at the end their opinions really don't matter. And I love Brene Brown, who is an author here that's big, but she talks about like making your people that matter list, like
mhm,
literally taking a 1 inch by 1 inch size of paper and writing down the list of people whose opinion matter. And I think that, like for women PCOS, it may sound touchy, but I think that's what you have to do, because we waste a lot of energy. I've been there. I've been in that space. I told you, like I have family members. Oh, you eating that? You the doctor. Da, da, da. And I'm like, I'm not a diet doctor, but they say these things. So really deciding whose opinion matters and making the person's opinion that matters most yours. And that does take work. It's been a journey, and I think that was a turning point and has been a turning point on my on my weight loss journey, my weight wellness journey, and my parenting journey, entrepreneurship journey, all of those things. And I think that is the first thing. So shifting that mindset to whose opinion matters and really embracing you. And then the second, along that with the mindset, is PCOS is a condition you have. It does not have you. You are
mhm.
not PCOS, okay?
Right.
Because a lot of times we take this label and say, I have PCOS, I had PCOS, I'm PCOS. You're not PCOS. This is not you. So it's a condition you live with, and you can live. And I love, this is why I wanted to be on your show, because it's persevering with PCOS. It's overcoming. So really recognizing, yes, I have this condition. It's incurable, but there are lots of solutions that I can do. And then embracing the small changes. One of the first things I say is release perfectionism and embrace your progress. So
Mhm,
release perfectionism. It does not have to be all or none. You don't have to be the boot camp queen today, the zero sugar, the all vegan, like all these things I hear, keto queen, all of these things I hear. You don't have to be all at once. Now, your journey may lead you to that. Your journey may take you to that eventually, but by and large, human beings, especially grown folks, we are like rubber bands. So once you stretch us, we're going to snap back to what we know, unless you have something in place that is sustainable. So I would say choose one thing that you're going to change. Like when it comes to PCOS, especially with insulin resistance and things that we know, is really those refined processed sugars, so like those refined carbohydrates, are going to worsen that insulin resistance, going to actually worsen your cravings. And I know it's a catch 22, because you're actually craving the sugar, you're craving it. So try maybe say, okay, what is the one thing, maybe if I'm drinking my sugar, because drinking it is probably one of the most harmful ways of doing it. So being soda, being pop, whatever you're drinking, maybe I'm going to replace one of my sodas with water today. and keep replacing till you're completely gotten off of soda. Then the next thing is saying, okay, I'm going to replace one of my unhelpful carbs at a meal with something that's more helpful for me. So that could be, instead of doing white rice, long grain white rice, I'll try brown rice. Okay, instead of brown rice, I may try cauliflower rice, and really just making those gradual changes to try to help it, instead of saying I have to do this all at once, all at none. And then I think really getting help. And help can come in different forms. It could be watching Yashi every week on this, following dietitians online that are reputable. OMG. Look, you got me unfiltered because this is my bedtime. Like, and I'm like, this is why I don't usually do interviews at night, because I'm just like, look, no fluff, no.
Let it out. Let
It's
it
very
out.
different, right? Yashi, from when I've been in the PCOS room in the morning, I'm like a lot more reserved. But I'm like, no, look,
Just after hours. It's
yeah, it's
fine.
after hours. We just gotta cut the BS. Like, but let's just get serious. So no, but please, y'all are people are following these people who, and people love that kind of story. Oh, I took this supplement and look, I got pregnant and I lost 50 pounds and blah blah blah. And a lot of times these things have not been founded. We don't know if they don't tell you that it's variable. They don't tell you what else they were doing in addition to it. So really being sure that you are following people who are reputable. I have several people listed again on my website. You can go to the My Dynamic Uterus Club, mydynamicuterus.com, and there's featured moderators there. But getting great information and following the right people. In addition, is actually working with someone one-on-one that understands PCOS, that can really help you get that clarity for you, instead of trying to put you in a cookie cutter box or have you do what works for everyone else. Because I do think a lot of times we have to take the cultural context into play. I don't want to tell you never to eat stewed chicken. You can tell, so it really is a favorite. My kids like it now too. So I don't want to say never to eat that, or never to eat pilau, or never to eat like whatever it is that you love. But how can we incorporate it in a way that it's helpful for you, so that you can still enjoy, you can still be satisfied, because the enjoyment, the satisfaction is part of what's going to keep you consistent. Part of why we break up with these programs and these plans is that it didn't really fit into our lifestyle. We were tired of changing who we are to fit into their diet, to fit into that plan. And you get tired of that, and it leads to inconsistency.
Yeah, that is just that is so much really, really great advice, and everything is true. And even the part where you said, make sure you're following reputable people. I had to get
Mhm.
a reminder of that last week, where I kind of hit
Mhm.
my own feeling. I was like, okay, wait, these people really, I always say it's not a one size fits all. Everybody has a
Mhm.
different way to manage a condition like PCOS. And I forgot for a second, because I was seeing, to do this diet and do this and cut
Mm.
this out and this type of exercise.
Mhm.
And I started to I appreciated it, because it reset me. I was like, you know what? I have to do my work, because if I'm going to be here, sharing my journey, and I'm on a journey still, so I'm learning from it.
Yeah.
So grateful for rooms like My Dynamic Uterus, and finding persons like yourself on Clubhouse. And now, like, if I follow somebody, I check, it's like, is Dr. Sylvia following this person? Like, like a double check, because it's so important, because there's so much conflicting information at times. And
Mhm.
like, I went from a place of, I didn't have the information at all, to a place where it's all this information coming out,
Mm. Mhm.
and you don't really know. So I think that is one of the best pieces of advice as well, for the community, and in general, just,
Mhm.
a lot of misinformation about different things happening now. So
I think when you're looking for information, you should beware of anyone who says everyone, all, only, always, because those to me are red flags.
mhm,
I I just came back from the obesity medicine conference here, and honestly, what I got from a lot of the conversations is that we still are at a place where we really need to take things based on the individual. We have some general guidelines that can help us, but there's exceptions to every rules. And so I think the harder work is listening to your body, listening to yourself, and seeing what really works for you. Now, that being said, like I said, there's some general things, right? We if we look at the data, the data does support a lower or reduced carbohydrate intake. That's because our body, we have our own carbohydrate stores, so we can generate our own carbs as we need them. It's just we can get energy from our body. If you have excess body fat, the goal is that you want to promote your body to utilize those fat stores so you actually lose body fat. So that makes sense why you would want to lower your carbohydrates. Now, that's not saying that you need to go to keto. And then also lowering carbohydrates, you still need to pay attention to quality, like what kind of carbohydrates are you eating? And the other thing is that along with that is that foods were not meant to be eaten by themselves, like macros in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, fat. They weren't meant to be eaten by themselves. They usually come in pairs. So your protein is usually with the fat, your proteins with the carb, your fats with the carb, so you need to have balance in what you're eating too, instead of just saying, okay, I'm keto, so I'm only eating protein. And I'm not picking on the keto folks, but y'all don't come for me because they roll deep. Y'all don't come for me. I already said some people can be that way. I'm not, and especially if you're doing keto in a way that is well rounded, which I see, but there's some people that I have worked with and have had to help that they're doing keto in a way that is very detrimental to themselves, that long term could be harmful. So I think with anything, and the same thing, let me go to vegan. There's some people that are doing plant based or vegan in a way that's very harmful and could be detrimental. I mean, technically, a diet Coke and fries is vegan, and have seen people who eat like that, and that's not food, that's not a meal, that's not well rounded. So I think it's really thinking about, is the food I'm taking in nourishing me? Is it helpful for the goal that I'm trying to get to? And is it something enjoyable and sustainable? Is important.
So true, Dr. Sylvia. So thank you so much for sharing everything you shared tonight. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I really hope that when persons look at it, they really take it on board, because what I appreciate is that it is about, you know, eating right and balance, as you're saying, but also the emotional side and, the
Absolutely.
mental side of things. And I really hope that people holistically try to look at this condition and treat with it, because you can't do one and without the other. You're gonna not be consistent, and it's not going to be enjoyable, as you're saying. So
Mhm.
before we leave, I know we have a special giveaway, so I hope people are on. And what's a simple question? Well, okay, I don't think I see any comments, but if you say goodnight right now to Dr. Sylvia, you can win a free copy of her book. Let me just get the correct name of the book. Embrace You, Your Guide to Transforming Weight Loss Misconceptions into Lifelong Wellness. And while we wait for that comment, Dr. Sylvia, please let us know how we can contact you. Well, I know, but how they can contact you, reach out to you, and to get a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. Well, I really encourage everyone to. So, two things actually for PCOS Awareness Month, and I might have to send this to you, Yashi. If people text me, and I'm not sure how it will work internationally, but if you text 415 7, oh, okay, 415 72, no, 415, oh my gosh, 528 7403. If you text that PCOS and you text the word PCOS Overcomer, then that will give you access to all the PCOS resources that I put together for this month. And it will also keep you in the loop when I'm doing different events that are PCOS related, and even just in general that are for weight and wellness related as well. So you can text that, but head on over to my website, which is embrace you, YOU, weightloss.com. And at the blog, I put up a couple of blogs for PCOS. So this month, I have the weight and your weight and PCOS, what you need to know, talking about the misconceptions, also talking about the solution. So we talk food, fitness, and pharmacy. So if you need medication, what about that? And so I've talked about that with Dr. Martha, with nutritionist Martha McKeetrich. Also, I have an article about stress and PCOS and how that impacts your body as well. So head over to my website. That's the best way to kind of stay in contact with me, see the resources that I have. Everything I do, y'all, I really do it for you. I do. I'm so tired of diet culture and people not having the right tools and really being forced to fit into other people's boxes. It's really time that we stop trying to make you do what they do, what worked for them, and really figure out what works for you, help you to embrace you. And so that's the whole point. My book, in the book, I actually walk you, it's not just to listen to my story, but I actually walk you through creating your own strategy. So, how do you figure out your healthy weight, your happy weight? How do you come up with a real practical stress management tool? Sleep, improving your sleep. How do you figure out a movement that you love, move from an exercise mindset to a movement mindset? So, all of that is included in the book, and it's really meant to be your customized guide to figuring out you. So that is the goal and the passion of it. So I hope people. I really look forward to staying connected with everyone, and I can't wait to come back.
Yes, so for sure. Thank you again so much, Dr. Sylvia, and everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And even if you're watching the replay, thank you. And be sure to follow Dr. Sylvia, check out her website. What is the handle on Instagram?
Oh, embrace you, YOUMD.
Okay, great. So if you follow her, you're always going to get so much knowledge and positivity, which is something I really love. The way you put across the information. And I know that's
Oh,
just to me,
thank
but
you.
I just know that I wish I had resources like you back then.
Mhm.
But I mean, everything happens for a reason, and we've
Yeah.
connected now, and we're going to stay connected
Mhm.
to do the work like this because I think it's so important to have these type of discussions now.
Yes, yes.
So to everybody, thank you and good night. I haven't seen anybody comment, but I'm gonna do the giveaway on my Instagram
Okay, awesome. All
after.
right. Well, can't wait.
Yes, and be sure to subscribe so that you can see future episodes of the Persevering with PCOS live. And let me know in the comments, what other content you would like to see and learn about because we're all on this journey together. So thank
Yes.
you again, Dr. Sylvia.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night and always embrace you.